They say people are impossible to read, that we're complicated, unpredictable, masked by words and hidden intentions, that to truly understand what's behind someone's smile or silence is a gift you're either born with or not. But that's a myth, and today, we're going to break it. Reading minds isn't some mystical power. It's not telepathy. It's not gazing into someone's soul with cosmic eyes. It's presence. It's awareness. And above all, it's observation. You've already started doing it without realizing. Every time you sense something's off in a friend's voice, or notice when someone says, "I'm fine," but their body says otherwise. This is your invitation to sharpen that instinct into a superpower of connection. Let's start here, right now. Imagine you're watching this while sitting alone. Maybe it's early morning. Maybe you're in a cafe, earbuds in, sipping coffee. Just take a second and drop a comment. Where are you listening from? And what time is it for you? You're not just a viewer. You're part of a story unfolding in real time. Because this journey is not about theory. It's about you, stepping into rooms and suddenly seeing things others miss. Now, let's dive in. Most people listen only with their ears. They hear words and respond to those words, never realizing that those words are the least honest part of communication. Over 90% of what people truly express comes out in tone, body movement, breath, gesture, posture, and the flickers of energy that pass between moments. And you can learn to see all of that without saying a word. The first truth you must absorb is this: mind reading is observation without judgment. Sounds simple, but it's rare. Most of us project our beliefs and assumptions onto people. We judge folded arms as defensiveness. We label silence as disinterest. But none of that is reliable until you learn one crucial concept: baseline. What is baseline? It's the normal, natural state of someone's behavior, their natural rhythm of speech, their average level of animation, their default posture when relaxed. Every change from that baseline is like a radar blip. It tells you that something beneath the surface has shifted. And when you start seeing those shifts in real time, you begin to unlock what's happening inside someone's emotional world. Let's say you walk into a room and see a colleague who's usually vibrant and animated. Today, they're quiet, slouched, eyes down. That's not just a mood, it's data. You're reading a deviation, and now you know something's changed before they even say a word. That's the gateway to understanding, and it starts with calibrating the people around you. Begin with people you know well. Observe your friends, your family, your coworkers when they're relaxed. Take mental notes. How do they sit, talk, gesture when there's no pressure? Then watch how they shift under stress, conflict, or excitement. Don't analyze, just observe. You're building your internal reference system, and soon you'll start seeing people's unspoken truths with startling clarity. But here's the heart of it. Reading minds isn't about control, it's about connection. This is where presence enters the scene. When you watch someone without judgment, with sincere curiosity, something magical happens. They feel seen, and that sense of being seen, not analyzed, is what opens people up. That's how you move from surface to soul. Let me share something that stays with me. There was once a manager in a silent boardroom. Everyone was nodding as a presentation unfolded. But she noticed one executive, arms folded, foot tapping, eyes slightly squinted. Nothing was said, but everything was felt. So she paused and asked gently, "Do you have thoughts on this direction?" He looked up, surprised, and said, "Actually, yes. I was just trying to decide the best way to raise a concern." That moment changed the energy in the room. Not because of a psychic revelation, but because someone had been truly present. Presence is rare. Most people are busy formulating their next reply or worrying how they're perceived. But when you stop trying to impress and instead start noticing, everything changes. You become the calm in the storm, the one who sees, and the one people start opening up to. So, here's where we begin, not with grand declarations or mind games, but with stillness, with attention, with the decision to observe instead of assume. Start practicing now. The next person you speak to, watch, observe. Don't jump to conclusions, don't label, just see. What's their posture? Their facial tension? Are they breathing shallow or deep? Are their gestures flowing or frozen? These tiny signals will speak louder than anything they say. And as you master this first step, you'll realize you don't need to read minds. You just need to notice what's already being broadcasted. Let's go further. Because now that your eyes are opening, the next question becomes, what exactly is the body saying? The room may be silent, but the body never is. Even when words are carefully chosen or not spoken at all, the body continues to tell its story. It whispers through posture, shouts through gestures, and reveals secrets through subtle shifts in breath. This chapter is where we begin to learn that second language, a language older than speech, a language that cannot lie. You see, every movement is a message. A tightened jaw might scream stress. Crossed legs turned away from you may suggest disinterest. An open palm says, I trust you. The body, unlike words, doesn't go through a filter. It reacts, automatically, truthfully. And if you learn to read that truth, you'll be several steps ahead in every interaction. Let's begin with the face. It's the most expressive and deceptive part of the body. People smile to hide anxiety. They nod in agreement when their lips are tight with disapproval. But then there are micro-expressions, those fleeting, involuntary flashes of emotion that pass over the face in a fraction of a second. They cannot be faked. They are pure, raw emotion before the mask slips back on. Train your eye to catch them. A flash of contempt, a twitch of disgust, raised eyebrows that signal surprise or disbelief. Practice by watching political debates on mute or interviews where someone is under pressure. See if you can spot the truth behind the curated words. Now shift your gaze to the eyes. They're not just the window to the soul. They're the flashlight revealing where attention and emotion are pointed. Darting eyes suggest discomfort. Prolonged stares can signal confidence or challenge. A soft gaze invites safety. Watch for eye patterns when someone's topic changes. Do they look down when discussing their past? Do they avoid your gaze when discussing their goals? Don't jump to conclusions, but do notice the shift. That's data, but it's the hands, those wonderful, expressive hands that often tell the clearest story. Open palms suggest honesty and cooperation. Fidgeting can indicate nervousness. Self-touch, rubbing the neck, tugging the earlobe, folding arms, often signals self-soothing. These behaviors show up when someone is managing discomfort inside. A man once interviewed for a job and smiled the whole way through. He said he was confident, said he was excited, said all the right things. But his hands remained under the table. His foot bounced. His blink rate doubled when asked about long-term plans. It didn't take a lie detector to know he wasn't being entirely truthful. It took eyes that had learned to see. Posture speaks, too. Someone leaning forward usually wants to engage. Someone leaning back may be evaluating or disengaging. Crossed arms could mean defensiveness. but they could also mean the room is cold. This is where context and calibration come into play. If someone's usual behavior is open and today they're closed, that's the deviation you pay attention to, not the gesture itself. And then there's the most ignored yet honest part of the body: the feet. Yes, the feet. People can control their face, their words, even their posture. But rarely do they control their feet. And yet, feet point where the mind wants to go. If someone's talking to you, but their feet angle toward the door, guess what? They're already halfway out. You can test this at any gathering. Watch people in groups. See whose feet are aligned, whose toes drift away during conversation. That tells you more about attention and interest than any compliment or excuse ever could. Breathing, too, reveals layers. Quick, shallow breaths, anxiety or arousal. Deep, slow breathing, calm and control. A sharp inhale at the wrong question. Stress response, holding breath, anticipation or fear. Pair these cues with other signals, and you begin to paint a fuller picture. Now let's stitch it all together. Imagine a woman at a networking event. She smiles as someone speaks, but her nostrils flare slightly. Her hands clasp tightly in front of her body. She nods, but her foot taps every few seconds. Her shoulders rise and stay tensed. Most people would say she's engaged. You would know she's uncomfortable, maybe anxious, maybe just being polite, but definitely not fully present. You're beginning to see what others miss. And you don't need to analyze like a machine. You just need to notice patterns. What's normal and what's not. What flows and what stiffens. You're looking for harmony or disruption, congruence or conflict. Let's be clear, these signs don't give you certainty. They give you insight. That's more valuable than certainty, because insight invites compassion. You're not here to expose people. You're here to understand them. So what can you do with this power? First, pause. Don't react. Just let the signals land. Second, match the signal. Not to manipulate, but to connect. If someone's body is closed, don't barge in with open gestures. Mirror gently. Soften your own body. Watch what happens. Third, ask. Not with words, but with presence. Your calm, your breath, your posture can invite someone to open. This is the quiet influence of the perceptive, practiced wherever you go. Watch people on trains, in cafes, in meetings. Narrate their nonverbal language in your mind, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Over time, the unspoken will speak to you clearly, because the body always speaks. And now, you're learning how to listen. Let's take it further. Now that you can read people's signals, what if you could gently reflect them, subtly syncing your movements and energy to build trust almost instantly? Trust isn't built in declarations. It's built in reflection. Not just in understanding someone's words, but in echoing their essence almost without trying. That's the hidden art of mirroring, one of the most subtle and powerful tools in human connection. And when done well, it doesn't feel like imitation. It feels like resonance. Imagine sitting across from someone, and without realizing it, you've leaned forward just as they did. You both take a sip of water at nearly the same moment. Your hands settle on the table when theirs do. You match their speaking pace, their quiet laugh, even the way they exhale. You're not copying, you're syncing. That sync? It tells their brain, this person gets me. We are wired to respond to sameness. In neuroscience, they call it mirror neurons, cells that fire both when we act and when we observe others acting. They create empathy, alignment, connection. And when you intentionally and gently engage these mirror pathways, you create the feeling of being understood without words. But here's the secret. The best mirroring is invisible. It's never theatrical. It's never forced. It's subtle, delayed, and sincere. Start with posture. If someone's relaxed, don't be rigid. If they're upright and energized, don't slouch. Align yourself, not identically, but energetically. Then pay attention to gestures. If they touch their face, cross their legs, or use expressive hands, wait a moment, then mirror a similar gesture naturally. Let it feel like part of your flow. Match their speaking rhythm. Are they animated and fast-paced? Let your tone lift and your tempo rise. Are they calm and thoughtful? Slow your words. Lower your voice. Let your energy join theirs. Even breathing can be mirrored. When you're truly in tune with someone, your breath synchronizes. It's unconscious, but you can also lead with it. Match their breathing for a minute, then gradually shift yours to be deeper, slower, more relaxed. Often they'll follow, without even realizing why. This leads us to a powerful dynamic called pacing and leading. First, you pace. You meet the other person exactly where they are, emotionally, physically, vocally. You make them feel felt, safe. Then, and only then, you gently lead. You slow down, soften your tone, relax your posture, and like a dance partner following the cue, they often begin to match you. Let's bring this to life. Picture a young teacher in a chaotic classroom. Her students are restless. She doesn't raise her voice or demand silence. She begins by mirroring their energy, moving quickly through the room, engaging with lively tone. Then, gradually, she starts speaking more softly, slowing her movement. And slowly, they follow. The room settles, attention returns. She led not with authority, but with resonance. Or take a different scene. A friend who's spiraling with anxiety, talking fast, pacing. You don't say, "Calm down," that disconnects. Instead, you walk beside them, match their pace. Let them feel your presence, not your correction. Then, over time, you slow your pace, your tone lowers, and they, without instruction, begin to calm with you. This is emotional mirroring, and it's even more important than physical mirroring. Because true connection happens not when we mimic movements, but when we mirror states. When someone is hurt, we don't offer solutions, we offer presence. When they're joyful, we amplify that joy with our own. It's about stepping into their emotional frequency, then gently guiding the tune. But this isn't about control. It's about trust. People trust those who feel like them, who sound like them, who reflect their pace, rhythm, tone. In job interviews, sales meetings, or even dating, mirroring makes the other person feel safe without knowing why. They lean in, walls come down, and real conversation begins. But tread carefully. There are pitfalls. Mirror too much, and you come off as fake. Mirror too fast, and it feels manipulative. Mirror without empathy, and you break the very trust you're trying to build. So here are your rules. Mirror just 2 or 3 elements, never everything. Add a slight delay, like a conversational echo, not instant repetition. Mirror from sincerity, not strategy. There's one more layer: values and beliefs. When you mirror not just how someone moves, but what they care about. When you speak to their worldview, validate their priorities, that's where influence truly begins. Imagine walking into a tense negotiation. The other party is formal, reserved, skeptical. If you barge in casual and expressive, you create friction. But if you match their formality, mirror their seriousness, you earn their respect. Then, as you guide the energy toward common ground, trust starts to grow. It's not a trick, it's a bridge. And sometimes, mirroring resolves what words can't. Two colleagues at odds, one furious, the other withdrawn. You don't mediate by telling them to get along. You start by entering each of their spaces, matching tone, matching posture, listening without correction. Then you guide both toward shared rhythm, one small shift at a time. Because here's what's true. People don't resist being influenced. They resist feeling different, unsafe, misunderstood. Mirroring dissolves that difference. It says, "You're not alone. I'm with you." And that's the beginning of everything. So now it's your turn. In your next conversation, try this. Pick one thing to mirror. Maybe the way someone sits, the pace of their voice, the way they breathe. Then add one more. Do it with care. Do it with attention. And see what happens. You may be surprised how quickly people start to open up, how much they tell you without saying a word. Next, we'll explore the power hidden not in what people say, but in how they say it. Because language is a map, and if you know how to read it, you can follow someone all the way to the truth. Language is the mask people wear, and sometimes the spotlight that accidentally reveals them. Every sentence spoken is not just a collection of words. It's a breadcrumb trail to the speaker's inner world. And if you learn to trace those crumbs, you won't just understand what someone is saying. You'll begin to understand what they really mean. Most people listen to content, the surface, the facts. But you're not most people anymore. You're training your ears to catch the subtext, the beliefs, fears, values, and emotional undertones hiding inside everyday speech. And often, the real message isn't in what is said, but how it's said, and what's not said at all. Let's start with a powerful clue: sensory language. Every person filters the world through their dominant senses: sight, sound, touch, feeling, and that shapes how they talk. Some people say, "I see what you mean," or "that looks good to me." Visual thinkers. Others say, "that sounds right," or "I hear you." Auditory processors. Then there are those who say, "I feel like this is the right move," or "this doesn't sit well." Kinesthetic or emotional communicators. When you learn to match someone's sensory language, you step into their reality. It's not mimicry, it's resonance. You're not just responding, you're relating. And when someone hears their world reflected back, they feel seen. Here's an example. Imagine a team leader listening to an employee who says, "I can't see how this is going to work." Instead of replying, "You just have to feel confident," a more attuned response would be, "Let's take a step back and look at the big picture." That simple shift builds trust. You're speaking their language, literally. But there's more than just sensory filters. People also reveal themselves through metaphors, those little poetic shortcuts we use without realizing it. Someone might say, "I'm under pressure," or "I'm stuck," or "I'm drowning in work." These aren't just dramatic flourishes, they're emotional X-rays. Under pressure suggests feeling crushed, burdened. Stuck implies a need for direction or momentum. Drowning points to helplessness and overwhelm. Reflecting these metaphors back can be profoundly healing. You say, "It sounds like you're feeling stuck. Let's find a way to help you move forward." That tells them you didn't just hear, they felt understood. Then come the presuppositions, the hidden assumptions people carry inside their sentences. Consider this: "Why does no one ever listen to me?" That line carries an invisible belief. People don't care about what I say. Or, I always screw things up. Behind that is the story, I'm a failure. People rarely say their beliefs outright, but they show up between the lines. As a mind reader, your role isn't to challenge those beliefs head-on. It's to notice them, to hear the emotional echo inside the words. And when the moment is right, gently question or reframe it. You don't need to say, "That's not true." Instead, you ask, "What would it feel like if you weren't always carrying that pressure?" You're not negating their belief. You're expanding their possibilities. Now listen to what's not said. Pauses, hesitations, topic changes, vague answers. These silences aren't empty. They're loaded. A forced "I'm fine" with a 5-second pause is louder than any rant. An abrupt "let's not get into that" isn't avoidance. It's a flare from the nervous system saying unsafe territory. Start tuning into incongruence. When someone's words and body don't match. They say, "I'm excited," but their voice is flat and their shoulders tight. Or they claim, "Everything's okay," while their eyes dart away. That's not lying, it's misalignment. And often, it means the person doesn't feel safe enough to speak their truth. When you notice that, you don't confront. You invite. You say you're okay, but I sense something else. Want to talk about it? That sentence creates space. And in that space, honesty grows. There's another tool you'll come to rely on. Reflective listening. This isn't repeating what someone said. It's capturing the essence behind it, then offering it back in your words. You're showing them they've been heard, without needing to explain. This calms the nervous system, builds trust, opens doors. Here's a moment to imagine. A teenager mutters, "I always mess up in presentations." Most people respond with logic. "That's not true." Or motivation. "You've got this." But a mind reader hears the presupposition, "I'm a failure when people look at me." The response becomes, "It sounds like presentations have been tough. What would a successful one look like to you?" That question opens the door from shame to possibility, from frustration to vision, from self-judgment to self-leadership. And here's the final shift. Guide with their words, not yours. If someone says, "I just can't see the path," don't tell them to trust the process. Say, "Let's map out some paths you can see." If they say, "This doesn't feel right," don't reply with logic. Ask, "What would feel more grounded?" This is language-based mirroring, and it's one of the most respectful ways to influence, because people don't resist change. They resist being misunderstood. And when you meet their language, when you reflect their inner world, they feel safe enough to step forward. Start now. In your next conversation, don't just listen for content. Listen for patterns, sensory words, metaphors, assumptions. Notice the gaps, the hesitations, the mismatches, and above all, respond with care. Because language isn't just a tool for expression, it's a doorway into the unspoken. In the next chapter, we'll follow the trail deeper. We'll explore how to sense when someone isn't telling the full story, and how to detect hidden motives and emotional cover-ups with clarity and compassion. Sometimes the truth doesn't hide. It hesitates. It shifts in its seat, looks away, gives too much detail, or not enough. And while most people chase the spoken story, you're learning to watch for the moment when that story skips a beat. Because truth isn't always in the words. It's in the hesitation, the overcompensation, the tiny fracture between what someone says and what their body knows to be real. We're entering delicate territory now. Deception. But let's be clear. This isn't about catching liars. You're not here to interrogate or expose. You're here to understand. Because most lies aren't malicious. They're protective, defensive, designed to shield identity, avoid shame, or delay discomfort. And even those soft lies leave a trace. Let's start by asking, why do people lie? Henrik Fexeus explains it simply. People lie to protect themselves, to maintain control, save face, prevent pain. The problem isn't that someone lies, it's that the truth feels unsafe. So if you learn how to create safety, truth becomes easier to reach. But before we get there, you need to learn the trail signs. There's no single movement that screams, lie. But deception tends to show up in clusters, a series of subtle shifts that together signal something is off. Common indicators include avoiding eye contact or suddenly maintaining it too intensely, over-explaining or giving more detail than needed, touching the nose, lips, or face repeatedly, fidgeting in unusual patterns, shifting posture too often or suddenly freezing, incongruent emotions, smiling while talking about something sad, pausing too long before responding. But here's the golden rule. Compare it to their baseline. If someone is always fidgety, that's not a lie. It's their default. If they're usually expressive and suddenly still, that's the shift you notice. Context over content. Pattern over guesswork. Imagine a project manager giving a status update. Everything's on track, he says with a bright tone. But his hands are hidden. He glances sideways when saying it. There's a beat too long before he speaks. His smile is tight. No one else notices, but you do. So instead of accusing, you say, "What's your biggest concern with this timeline?" That question invites honesty. It creates air. And often, that's all the truth needs to surface. Let's go deeper. When people lie, there's often an emotional disconnect. They say something sad, but their face is blank. Or they express joy, but their voice is monotone. That mismatch is key. Because while words can be rehearsed, emotional expression is harder to fake. When there's no emotional alignment, something isn't syncing. That doesn't always mean deception. It could mean avoidance, repression, or fear. But it's a door worth knocking on. Next, listen for verbal red flags. Certain phrases often accompany defensiveness. To be honest, I swear to God, why would I lie to you? I don't remember. Believe me, these aren't guarantees of dishonesty, but they are often used when someone wants to convince rather than communicate. If these appear alongside body signals, tight lips, shifting eyes, nervous self-touch, you may be stepping into a fog of partial truth. There's also power in what's missing. Notice long pauses, abrupt topic shifts, or vague responses where there should be clarity. Someone says, "Yeah, we handled it," but can't explain how. Or they say, "I don't know," but they should know. These gaps often hold more truth than the sentences themselves. Here's a tool, gentle curiosity. When something feels off, don't challenge. Don't accuse. Ask. Softly. You paused there. What came up for you? Or, you mentioned the problem but not the solution. What's still unclear? These questions don't corner. They open, and always, always trust your intuition. You felt it before. That subtle discomfort when a conversation sounds right but feels wrong. That's your subconscious detecting inconsistencies, tiny tone changes, micro-expressions, shifts in rhythm. You may not consciously spot them, but your nervous system does. Don't dismiss that. You don't need proof to explore further. Your intuition isn't a judge, it's a compass. But here's where your power grows: creating safety. The more judgmental or forceful you are, the more people will retreat into falsehood. But when you hold space, Non-judgmental, calm, present. People let down their defenses. They feel it's okay to reveal a less polished version of themselves. Instead of, "Are you lying to me?" say, "It's okay if that wasn't the full story. I'm here to understand." That line has unlocked more truths than any demand ever could. Let's look at a human moment. A friend says, "I'm fine," but their voice is brittle, and their fingers won't stop tracing the rim of a coffee cup. You don't push. You just say, "You say you're okay, but I'm sensing something else. Want to talk?" That's all it takes sometimes, to turn a silent wall into an open door. And in professional spaces, this skill is gold. A team member insists they've started a project, but they're vague, overconfident, quick to change the subject. You don't call them out. You ask, "What's the next step you're working on?" Or, "What's the biggest block you're navigating?" These are questions that invite, not challenge. And finally, know when to let go. Not every lie must be unraveled. Sometimes people lie to survive. Sometimes they're not ready to face their own truths. Your job isn't to extract confessions. It's to offer understanding, to stay present, to let people meet themselves when they're ready. You're not here to be a detector. You're here to be a witness. And when people feel safe being seen, truth follows. Next, we'll move into the realm of influence. Not the forceful kind, but the kind that flows from deep connection. You'll learn how to guide others ethically and intuitively, using subtle cues that never break trust, but build it. Influence doesn't begin when you speak. It begins the moment someone feels safe in your presence. Before the words, before the logic, before the suggestion, there's energy. There's trust. And if you've made it this far, you already know. People don't follow instruction. They follow resonance. They follow those who feel aligned. So let's reframe influence. It's not control. It's not manipulation. It's not about steering people where they don't want to go. Real influence is about creating alignment so people feel safe moving forward, with you and with themselves. Henrik Fexeus is clear. Manipulation violates consent. Influence honors it. The difference lies in intention and in presence. Let's begin with the foundation. Connection before persuasion. If someone doesn't feel heard, they won't hear you. If they don't feel seen, they won't see your point. Connection is not a soft skill. It's the only skill that makes persuasion possible. Start here. Eye contact, not a stare, but a steady presence. Posture, open, grounded, non-threatening. Mirroring, subtle, warm, and natural. And perhaps most important, listening. Not waiting for your turn to speak. Listening to understand, to feel, to meet the person where they are. From that foundation, we activate the first major principle of influence: reciprocity. When you offer someone value first, your attention, your support, your kindness, they feel an urge to respond in kind. That's not trickery, that's biology. Humans are wired for exchange, so offer something without asking. Share something helpful. Genuinely praise. Help solve a small problem. Give first. The influence follows. The second principle, framing. Framing is how you present an idea. And how you present something is just as important as the thing itself. You should exercise more might trigger resistance. But I've been feeling better since I started walking every morning. Have you tried that? Invites curiosity. The same idea, framed differently, creates different outcomes. Framing is about language. It's about suggestion without demand. Use phrases like, "What would it look like if?" "Have you noticed how?" "I found that when I..." These invite, not push. And here's a subtle superpower: mirroring language. You've already learned to mirror posture and tone. Now do it with words. If someone says, "I'm overwhelmed," don't respond with, "It's not that bad." Say, "It sounds like things feel heavy right now." Let their words guide your response. This creates emotional fluency. It says, "I hear you in your language." From there, influence becomes a conversation, not a conversion. Now add a tool that shifts everything. Influence through questions, not commands. Telling someone what to do triggers the ego. Asking a question invites ownership. Instead of, "You need to stop stressing," say, "What might help you feel a little more grounded today?" Questions spark reflection. They plant seeds. And when people arrive at a decision on their own, they act with more confidence. Great influencers ask better questions than they give answers. And what about emotional momentum? That's where anchoring enters. Anchoring is when you link a specific emotion to a physical gesture, word, or environment. Help someone access a positive state: calm, courage, joy, and then pair it with something tangible: a phrase, a breath, a hand on their shoulder. Later, you can reactivate that emotion by triggering the anchor. This isn't manipulation, it's emotional reinforcement, reminding someone of their own strength. There's also a silent language of influence: nonverbal cues. A steady gaze builds trust. A slight nod signals understanding. A warm smile opens hearts. Pausing after a key point makes it land deeper. Silence, used well, creates gravity. These tools bypass the thinking brain and go straight to feeling. And feelings are what make decisions. Another psychological lever: priming. Priming is how you set the stage for someone's response. For example, if you say, "This idea might sound strange," you've primed them to be skeptical. But if you say, "Here's something I've been exploring," their mind is open. The brain responds not just to what is said, but to what comes before it. Confidence is also contagious. Not arrogance, not loudness, but certainty. When you speak calmly, clearly, with conviction, others lean in. Because people don't follow the loudest voice. They follow the one that sounds most sure of itself. So get clear before you speak. Then deliver with grounded energy. Let your calm lead the room. But above all else, honor consent. Never try to influence someone who hasn't invited you in. If they say no, respect it. If they're hesitant, give space. Real influence never violates boundaries. It strengthens them. And from that strength, people can step forward. Let's revisit a real-world example. A manager leads a team that's burned out, disconnected, tired. She doesn't push harder. She doesn't lecture. Instead, she starts by listening, truly listening. She mirrors their language, echoes their concerns, praises small efforts. She reframes challenges as shared goals. She asks, "What small win could lift us this week?" And slowly, the team rises. Not from pressure, but from alignment. That's influence. That's leadership. That's respect turned into momentum. And here's what you can do today. Before your next request, offer something first. When giving advice, try asking a question instead. Mirror someone's words when they're struggling. Use a warm pause instead of a rushed reply. Speak from conviction, not from need. Because when influence flows from presence, not pressure, people don't resist. They respond. Now, we'll go even deeper. Into the engine that powers all connection. Emotional intelligence. You'll learn how to read and regulate emotions in real time. Yours and others. This is where your presence becomes not just persuasive, but transformational. Words are the vehicle, but emotion is the engine. Behind every action, every pause, every decision, There's an emotional current running just beneath the surface. And when you learn to read that current, when you learn to feel it as it's happening, you stop reacting and start responding. This is the core of emotional intelligence. Not a personality trait, but a skill. A trainable, practical, life-changing skill. Henrik Fexeus puts it simply: if you want to understand others, don't just analyze their behavior, feel their feelings. Let's start with the first layer. Recognizing emotional cues in others. You've already learned to spot micro-expressions, body language, changes in tone. Now we go deeper into emotional leaks. Those tiny signs that emotion is present before words form. Tension in the jaw or shoulders. Stress. Rapid blinking, overwhelm, a tight, held breath. Anxiety or hesitation. Sudden silence, withdrawal or protection. A fake smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Suppressed discomfort. The emotionally intelligent person doesn't just notice these signs, they respect them. They don't rush to fix, advise, or solve. They hold space. They invite safety. They make room for what's unspoken to surface gently. But it's not just about reading others. Emotional intelligence begins with yourself. Before every interaction, ask, how do I feel right now? What am I bringing into this moment, calm or tension, judgment or curiosity? Because your body, your tone, your micro-expressions, they're speaking too. People read you just as you read them, and your emotional state sets the tone of the entire exchange. A leader walks into a room and says all the right words, but her shoulders are tense, her breath short, her voice sharp. The team feels it. The words say one thing, but the emotion says something else. That's why mastering others begins with mastering yourself. Pause before speaking. Breathe before reacting. This isn't spiritual advice. It's strategic communication. And now we reach a powerful technique: emotional matching. It's the same principle as mirroring body language, but it happens at the emotional level. When someone is angry, don't go cold. When they're sad, don't go cheerleader. That creates emotional dissonance. The nervous system reads it as unsafe. Instead, join them where they are, then gently guide them out. If someone is spiraling in frustration, start by matching their urgency, not their anger, but their energy. Then slowly lower your volume, slow your speech, regulate your breath. Watch how they begin to follow your lead, not because you told them to, but because you invited them with presence. And when someone is joyful, don't dampen it with logic. Match their joy. Reflect their celebration. Emotional matching builds attunement, and attunement builds trust. But beware the trap: emotional absorption. Empathy is feeling with someone. Absorption is being overwhelmed by them. If you take on others' emotions without boundaries, you burn out. Emotional intelligence isn't becoming a sponge. It's becoming a mirror with a heart. You reflect, you acknowledge, but you don't dissolve into someone else's chaos. Henrik teaches a simple method. When someone shares an intense emotion, take one conscious breath before responding. That breath grounds your nervous system, so your response comes from clarity, not reflex. You become the emotional thermostat, not the thermometer. Let's talk about language now. The emotionally intelligent kind. How you say something changes everything. Why did you do that? Feels like accusation. What made you decide that? Feels like curiosity. Calm down often escalates tension. I'm here with you. Take your time. Lowers defenses. Tone is everything. Pacing, softness, intention. It's how you turn a question into a gift, not a threat. Now look outward, beyond the individual, to group emotion. Yes, entire rooms have emotional frequencies. Walk into a team meeting, a classroom, a family dinner. You can feel it. Excitement, resistance, fear, fatigue. It lives in how people sit, speak, breathe. It flows like a current under the surface. This is called the social field, and your job is to read it. Is the room open or closed? Leaning in or shutting down? Do you need to energize it or calm it? Great communicators don't just talk, they shift energy. With silence, with tone, with story, with one grounded breath. One of the most powerful uses of emotional intelligence is in conflict. When tempers flare, logic fails. But emotion responds to emotion. Match the heat, then cool the room. Meet the volume, then lead it lower. Reflect the frustration, then redirect it with clarity. You're not controlling the other person. You're controlling your state and inviting theirs to follow. And now, a truth that shifts everything. Emotions are not obstacles. They're guides. They show you what someone values, what they fear, what they long for. When someone is angry, it means something important is being threatened. When they're anxious, something precious feels at risk. Emotional intelligence is decoding those signals and offering presence, not solutions. Let me tell you a story. A team had reached a breaking point, burned out, quiet, frustrated. The manager had tried deadlines, incentives, accountability tools. Nothing worked. One day, she walked into the room, paused, and said, "I feel like something's off. I think I haven't been listening well. I'm here now. Can we talk?" Silence. Then one person nodded. Another sighed. Then someone cried. In that moment, she didn't lead with strategy. She led with emotion. She named what everyone felt but no one could say. And from there, trust returned. That's not manipulation. That's not mind tricks. That's what happens when emotional presence meets emotional truth. Here's your practice. Before every interaction, ground yourself. During conversations, scan for emotional cues. Mirror emotional tone, not just words. Ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Breathe, reflect, then respond. In the next section, we'll take everything you've learned: body language, presence, mirroring, emotional intelligence, and explore how it works in the real world. From workplace meetings to everyday conversations, you'll see how to apply these tools with clarity and confidence. Everything you've learned, every subtle cue, every breath held, every mirrored gesture, every shift in tone or posture, means little if it stays as theory. The true power of reading minds without words lies in your ability to live it. To walk into any room, any relationship, any conversation, and apply these skills like second nature. Let's begin where it all counts most. Conversation. You speak to people every day, but most of those interactions stay on the surface. Emotionally intelligent mind readers take conversations deeper, not by prying, but by noticing. You're not just listening to what is said. You're noticing how it's said. You're watching eyes light up or dim. You hear the shift in breath when a difficult topic arrives. You see someone's shoulders rise when they say, "It's fine." In that moment, you respond not with advice, but with attention. You say, "You don't sound fine. Want to talk?" Not as a challenge, but as an offering. This alone transforms connection. Now imagine you're in a meeting, leading a project, pitching an idea, offering a vision. You've prepared. But then you notice someone leaning back, arms folded, eyes unfocused. That's your cue. You pause, not to defend, but to invite. You say, "I sense some hesitation. What needs more clarity?" That moment doesn't weaken your pitch. It strengthens trust, because people don't follow perfection. They follow presence. This is how you begin to lead with insight, not assumption. Let's zoom into romantic and personal relationships. Here, nonverbal language plays a louder role than almost anywhere else, because we often assume closeness equals understanding. But closeness can breed emotional blindness. We stop noticing the little things. Until you return to presence, you see that your partner has smiled less this week. They touch their neck when they say everything's okay. Their messages are shorter. Their laugh is quieter. And instead of brushing it off or making it about you, you pause and say, "You've been quieter lately. Want to share what's been going on inside?" That's love in action. Not guessing, not controlling, but witnessing. And when someone feels witnessed, they soften. In the arena of conflict, these tools become even more essential. Most arguments aren't about the topic. They're about the emotions beneath the words. One person raises their voice. The other shuts down. Words bounce back and forth like ping-pong balls, never touching the real issue. Here's how a mind reader diffuses conflict. You match emotional intensity first, so the other person feels heard. Then you slowly guide the tone lower with your own voice, breath, and posture. You say, "It sounds like this really matters to you." You breathe, you wait. Then, when space opens, you offer, "How can we make this better together?" Conflict is not a problem to solve. It's an emotion to understand. In sales and persuasion, these skills become art. Great persuasion is not loud or slick. It's quiet, sensitive, tuned in. You're watching the client's face as you speak. You notice when they lean forward in interest, or when their lips purse in hesitation. You adjust. You pause. You ask, "What part of this feels unclear?" You mirror their language. They say, "It just doesn't feel right." You reply, "What would help it feel more aligned?" In that moment, you're not selling a product. You're creating alignment. Even in casual social settings, your awareness becomes your power. Walk into a party, a coffee shop, a networking event. Instead of focusing on being impressive, you observe. Who seems anxious? Who's energetically leading the space? Who's pretending to be fine? You find someone standing quietly at the edge, cup clutched tightly. You approach with calm presence, mirror their pace, speak gently. Not to fix, not to impress, just to connect. They feel safe, and for the first time that day, they relax. That's the power of subtle emotional leadership. Then there's strangers, people you pass on the street, a cashier who's clearly tired, a barista who smiles but never meets your eyes. You don't need a conversation to create a moment, a pause, a warm glance, a soft thank you, a gentle, tough day. These micro moments add up. They shift emotional weather. They heal more than you'll ever know. So how do you build this into your daily life? You make it a practice. Every day, choose one person to observe without judgment. Notice their emotional state. Guess silently, then confirm if possible. Reflect on your own energy, what you project, what you hold. Practice slowing your breath during high-stress moments. Use open-ended questions more often than advice. Match someone's language style once per day. And keep a mental journal. What did I notice today that others missed? Where did I listen with more presence? Where did someone soften when I didn't push? That's how theory becomes intuition. That's how skill becomes nature. You're not memorizing techniques. You're becoming someone who sees, someone who feels, someone who invites honesty just by being present. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to use these skills to de-escalate intense conflict with empathy and awareness, and how to guide emotional energy like a calm current flowing through chaos. Conflict is not the enemy. Disconnection is. The raised voices, the crossed arms, the slammed doors, these are just symptoms. Beneath them, there's almost always a need not being met, a feeling not being heard, or a pain not being acknowledged. The goal isn't to win the argument. It's to find the message behind the reaction. This is where all your tools converge. Body language, mirroring, emotional matching, presence, pacing. Now, we apply them in one of the most high-stakes arenas of human interaction: emotional escalation. Let's start with a simple truth. You cannot reason with someone who feels unsafe. When a person is in emotional overdrive, angry, defensive, withdrawn, their logical brain goes offline. The part of their brain that handles empathy, flexibility, and language dims, and in its place, the survival system takes over. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And your role, as a calm communicator, is not to confront this system, but to regulate it. Here's how. When you sense emotional tension rising, whether it's in a partner, a colleague, or even a stranger, the first thing you do is match the energy, not the emotion, but the intensity. If someone is speaking loudly and quickly, you don't respond with a whisper. That feels dismissive. You speak with steadiness, clarity, and just enough presence to meet them where they are. Once they feel met, they begin to lower their guard. That's when you gradually slow your speech, soften your tone, shift your posture into calm openness, and they start to follow. Not consciously, but biologically. This is emotional pacing and leading, applied in conflict. Let's paint the scene. Two co-workers are clashing in a meeting. One is fiery, leaning forward, hands cutting the air. The other is retreating, arms crossed, leaning back, face blank. Words are flying, but understanding is absent. You don't jump in with solutions. You observe first. You speak in a tone that grounds. You say, "I can see this is charged. Let's slow it down and make space for both voices." You mirror the open posture you want to see. You direct attention back to shared goals. Conflict isn't just about emotion. It's about unmet emotional needs. Anger often masks a need to be respected or heard. Withdrawal hides fear of being hurt or dismissed. Defensiveness protects vulnerability. So instead of arguing content, speak to the underneath. Say, "It sounds like this matters a lot to you." Or, "You're trying to protect something important here, aren't you?" Or simply, "What do you need from me right now?" These questions de-escalate faster than logic ever could. Let's look at another dynamic: personal relationships. You walk into the kitchen. Your partner is unusually silent. You ask how their day was. "Fine," they mutter, eyes on the sink. The tone is clipped, shoulders tense. The air is thick. Old you might have pushed. "What's wrong?" New you knows better. You say, "You're being quiet. I'm here if you want to share." Then you stay quiet. No pressure, just presence. Eventually, the dam opens. Not because you demanded, but because you created emotional permission. Conflict is not just heat, it's opportunity. It reveals where someone is wounded, where they're longing to be met, understood, forgiven, or heard. You're not walking into fire. You're walking with them through it. In professional environments, this approach builds credibility faster than any resume. You notice when a colleague shuts down during meetings. You don't embarrass them by calling it out. Instead, afterward you say, "You seemed a little off today. Want to talk about it?" That quiet attention creates loyalty. Or in leadership, you have a team member who keeps missing deadlines. Instead of leading with pressure, you start with, "I get the sense you've been carrying a lot. Tell me where things are stuck." That statement shifts the tone from discipline to support. Even in parenting, these tools shine. A child throws a tantrum. Instead of yelling, you crouch down. Mirror their frustration in your facial expression. "You really wanted that toy, didn't you?" You match their energy, then gently lead them into regulation. It's not compliance, it's co-regulation. This is conflict transformation. Not solving the storm, but learning to sail through it. Here's what to remember. Presence over precision. You don't need the right words. You need the right energy. Emotion before logic. Regulate first, reason later. Invitation over confrontation. People open up when they feel safe, not when they feel cornered. You lead by feeling, not by force. So next time tension rises, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Soften your face. Match intensity, then guide it. Listen to what isn't being said. And when you respond, speak not to defend yourself, but to understand them. Because when someone feels understood, they stop shouting. When they feel seen, they stop hiding. And suddenly, conflict becomes what it always wanted to be. A chance to reconnect. Up next, we'll walk into the room where everyone is a stranger, and still, you'll feel completely at home. Because now, you'll be able to read the entire room, not just individuals, and create presence in any environment. You step into a room. Maybe it's a networking event, a new workplace, a gathering where no one knows your name. For most, this would be disorienting. They'd scan for someone familiar, scroll their phone, or shrink into the nearest corner. But not you, because you've been training for this. You've learned to feel the temperature of emotion, not just in one person, but in the whole room. This is where group dynamics become your canvas, where you don't just read individual people. You read energy fields, atmospheres, emotional climates, and you do it with presence, not performance. Let's break it down. Every room has a social pulse. You can feel it the moment you enter, without anyone saying a word. Is the room buzzing with excitement, tense with unspoken friction, flat with disinterest, flowing with warmth and openness? These aren't accidents. They're emotional fields, generated by posture, tone, facial expressions, silence, and subtle interactions. You're not imagining them. You're picking up on real data. Here's how to tune in. Start with nonverbal scanning. Let your eyes move through the space like a gentle radar. Who is speaking and who is being ignored? Who's leaning in? Who's leaning away? Where is the group's physical center of gravity? Are people mirroring each other or pulling into themselves? Then move to emotional resonance. Ask yourself, what does this room feel like? Let's say it feels stiff. You notice people checking their watches, standing with crossed arms, conversations staying surface level. That's social contraction. Your job isn't to break that tension with force, but to shift it with subtlety. You approach someone not with a high-energy pitch, but with matching tone and posture. You align first. Then, as the conversation deepens, you guide the energy gently toward openness, maybe with a joke, a vulnerable comment, a moment of shared observation. Now that person softens. They mirror your energy, and the ripple begins. Influence spreads sideways before it moves forward. People notice your calm, your grounded presence, and soon, others begin responding. Not because you commanded attention, but because you regulated the atmosphere. You've become the emotional anchor in the room. Let's play this out in real life. You're in a new team meeting. Everyone is polite but guarded. Your manager speaks with formality. Others nod without much reaction. There's agreement, but no engagement. You watch. You don't jump in with big ideas or forced energy. You speak slowly, with a warm tone. You share a small story from your weekend. You ask someone a personal but safe question. What's your favorite way to spend a Sunday? The group laughs. Shoulders loosen. Someone else shares. The atmosphere begins to breathe. You didn't change the meeting with brilliance. You changed it with attunement. Let's move to social gatherings. At a dinner party, you notice someone standing alone, holding their drink too tightly, eyes scanning the room. No one sees them. You do. You walk over, mirror their posture, smile softly, and say, "I always feel awkward at these things until someone talks about food. What's your favorite dish here?" It's not charm, it's permission. You've just offered someone a moment of relief, and you'll notice something else. The more emotionally attuned you become, the less you need to say. People start gravitating toward you, not because you're loud, but because your energy feels safe. This is presence, and presence is power. In group settings, your posture, breath, and energy act like a signal tower. Stand tall but relaxed, sarchikutikam. Stability. Make soft eye contact. Approachability. Smile gently. Permission. Nod slightly when someone speaks. Acknowledgement. Speak with calm cadence. Grounding. And just like in one-on-one mirroring, pacing and leading applies in groups. You match the room's pace, then begin to slow it. You mirror the tone, then start to warm it. You reflect what's unspoken, then gently voice it. Like saying, "Feels like we're all waiting for someone to break the ice, huh?" Or, "I get the sense we're dancing around the real topic. Should we go there?" That's group-level emotional intelligence. That's leadership without title. Because here's the truth. Leadership is not about being the loudest voice. It's about being the clearest energy in the room. You've likely seen it before. Someone walks in and everyone turns. Not because they're flashy, but because they're anchored. Their presence rearranges the room. They're calm when others are tense, focused when others are scattered, open when others are closed. That can be you, but it requires intention. So here's your checklist when walking into any new space. Scan without judgment. Who's open? Who's guarded? Feel before fixing. What does the space need? Energy or softness? Align before leading. Mirror first, then shift. Anchor your breath. Your breath influences your nervous system. Your nervous system influences the room. Be a bridge. Find one disconnected person. Connect them back. This is subtle mastery. It won't be loud, but people will remember how they felt around you, and they'll wonder what made it so easy to open up. In our final content chapter, we bring everything together. We'll explore how to integrate these skills across your entire life, and how mind reading, at its core, isn't about control at all. It's about connection that changes people gently, silently, and for the better. There's a moment that happens when everything you've practiced becomes part of who you are. When noticing a flicker of discomfort in someone's eyes is as natural as hearing your own breath. When sensing emotional tension in a room is automatic, and your body responds not with strategy, but with care. That moment is where true mind reading lives, not in analysis, but in integration. This final stretch is about weaving your awareness into the fabric of daily life, not just to improve conversations, but to transform relationships, presence, and purpose. You already know how to do this. You walk into your morning routine, and instead of scrolling mindlessly, you observe yourself, your energy. Are your shoulders tight? Is your breath shallow? Is your tone with your family or partner a little sharper than it needs to be? The mind reader starts here, with self. Then, throughout the day, you move like a quiet observer. Someone at the grocery store looks distracted. You don't need to say anything, but you smile with your eyes. Someone at work seems rushed. You don't give more tasks. You ask, "What would make today easier?" These are small interactions, but they compound. You become the person others feel lighter around. Not because you fix them, but because around you, they feel felt. Let's revisit every domain of life. In conversations, you no longer listen just to reply. You listen to feel. You hear the pauses, the shifts. You reflect back what matters. Not the words, but the emotional truths behind them. A friend says, "It's just been one of those weeks." Old you might say, "Yeah, same." New you pauses and says, "You sound like you're holding a lot. Want to let it out here?" And that changes everything. In relationships, you stop waiting for big moments to connect. You use small moments. You notice when your partner seems slightly more withdrawn than usual. You put your phone down. You say, "You've been quiet. Want to take a walk?" You build bridges with presence, not performance. In parenting, you no longer react to behavior alone. You respond to emotion. A child lashes out, not because they're bad, but because they're overwhelmed. You sit beside them, mirror their energy, help them name the feeling, teach them that emotions aren't shameful, they're signals. In work environments, your meetings shift tone. You ask more questions. You hold more space. You don't race through your agenda. You read the room. Adjust. Align. Guide. You become the one whose presence settles tension. Even with strangers, your way of being ripples. The barista, the cab driver, the neighbor you pass. You don't offer fake positivity. You offer something rarer, attentiveness, a nod, a moment, a real thank you. These things sound small, but they aren't. Because we live in a world starving for genuine presence, you become a source of regulation for others, a quiet lighthouse in busy seas. And here's the most powerful part. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to always get it right. You just need to stay curious. Ask, what is this person really feeling? What are they not saying with their words? How can I meet their emotional world, not just their logic? What would it feel like if I made them feel safe right now? You begin to lead by example, not by force. You influence without effort. You heal without fixing. You open doors without knocking. Let me leave you with a scene. You're in a quiet cafe. A woman sits alone, phone in hand, eyes vacant. Not sad, not joyful, just elsewhere. Most people pass by. You don't. You're sitting nearby. You feel it, a weight in the air. You look up, smile softly, and say, "Long day?" She looks surprised, laughs quietly. "Yeah," she says. "How could you tell?" And suddenly, a connection is born. Not out of charm, not out of skill, but out of the one thing that cuts through every wall: presence. This is the end of the story and the beginning of your practice. You've learned to observe, reflect, guide, regulate, and connect. You've learned that mind reading isn't about guessing thoughts. It's about seeing the signs people are already giving. You've learned to honor what's unspoken. And most of all, you've learned that the greatest influence you'll ever have comes not from your words, but from the quiet way you make people feel safe enough to show you who they really are. Carry this with you, in your breath, in your eyes, in your pauses, in your presence. Not to impress, not to predict, but to connect. Because in the end, the true gift of mind reading is not about reading minds at all. It's about reading hearts, without needing them to speak first. A woman sits alone in the corner of a quiet cafe, her eyes fixed on a phone she hasn't touched in minutes. Around her, life moves on. Cups clink, baristas call names, footsteps shuffle in and out. But she's still, not in peace, in pause. You might pass her and not think twice, but if you've been paying attention, if you've trained your presence, you'd feel it. A kind of invisible tension clinging to her shoulders, that subtle breath held too long, that gentle slump, not from fatigue, but from something deeper. You sit nearby, not out of obligation, not out of politeness, but because something in her energy felt familiar. And instead of scrolling or rushing, you breathe. You slow down. You simply exist with intention. And then, with a softness that's become second nature, you say, "Long day?" She looks up, blinks. You've startled her, but not with volume, with presence. She gives a half laugh, the kind that hides 100 untold stories, and says, "Yeah, how could you tell?" And there it is, a moment of real connection between two strangers. Not because of perfect timing, not because of polished words, but because you noticed. You cared. You were here. This is the true art of mind reading. It's not about decoding secrets. It's not about being clever. It's about witnessing people in a world that rarely slows down enough to do so. You've reached the end of a journey, but not a conclusion. You now walk with new eyes. You'll see the mother at the supermarket trying to smile through exhaustion. The coworker who says "I'm fine" with a flat voice and darting gaze. The friend who cancels plans again, not because they're flaky, but because something inside them feels too heavy to carry into conversation. You'll start catching the things that others miss, not so you can fix them, but so you can see them. And what happens when people feel seen? They soften, they open, they remember who they are beneath their defenses. You will be that mirror for them, not of perfection, but of quiet understanding. You now know how to create safety in silence, to shift energy in a room without needing the floor, to invite honesty not with questions, but with presence. This is your gift now, so carry it gently, offer it generously, and never forget, some of the most important words in life will never be spoken. They will be felt, through a breath, through a glance, through the way you listen before anyone speaks. Because to read minds without saying a word is not a magic trick. It's a human one. And the world needs more of it.